Hey everyone. I swear I'll do a longer video about like the state of the movie industry soon, maybe as early as this weekend. But I wanted to do a quick, well, I say quick and then it won't be, a quick review of the St. Maud Blu-ray I got. So, St. Maud, uh, it was originally scheduled to open in the US in April of 2020. Obviously, COVID happened. Almost everything got pushed back. Theaters were closed at the time. So A24, the distributor in the U.S., took it from they plucked it from the release schedule, and they never redated it for some reason. So it was like, oh, well, are they going to release this? Because, I mean, other movies, like low-budget horror movie type stuff, they were getting at least, like, limited theatrical in the fall, or at least PVOD, so you saw... Promising Young Woman, which any movie I saw a St. Maud trailer in front of, a Promising Young Woman trailer was almost always also on that same movie. That ended up getting like the 17-day theatrical in December, and then PVOD. Stuff like Freaky, 17-day, then PVOD. Antebellum went direct to PVOD, no theatrical, stuff like that. So it was like, why are they sitting on this? I don't know. And then it got a release in the United Kingdom, in the UK. Theatrical release in, I want to say, October of 2020. So it had a theatrical release there when the theaters were open. I think theaters closed and then reopened in the UK. They have that weird variant there. But even after that release, there was still no news about when would it get a US theatrical release. So it comes to, I want to say it was December, maybe a little bit early. Maybe it was late November, but I want to say it was in December. Get a notification that, hey, St. Maud will be released on Blu-ray in the UK. And, hey, I have a region-free player now. I have a video where I, kind of unboxed it and went over it and stuff, which has way more hits than I ever thought it would be. But I have a region-free player now, so even if it's Region B locked, I can totally get it. So there was a regular version. I think that just is in a normal case, and I think it comes with, like, lobby cards or postcards or something. And then Zavvi, which is one of the main websites where if you're trying to buy an imported Blu-ray, like an overseas one, a 4K or Blu-ray, it's one of the major sites, like Zavvi, Diabolic DVD, Grindhouse Video sometimes. There's a few sites. I mean, you can also go to like Amazon.co.uk, but they don't always ship to the US right now with COVID. But so there's certain sites where if you want something from a different region, a Region B or even a Region C sometimes, certain sites you go to, and Zavvi is a UK company, so they get a lot of Region B, and they also get exclusives, such as the Steelbook. So I pre-ordered the Steelbook when it went on sale, and it finally shipped on February 1st, and it got to here in the States February 9th. So not bad for an overseas shipping. Just to give you a look at the Steelbook, it's kind of like flat matte. This is I really liked the artwork cover here. Says St. Maud. It was released, or is it Studio Canal released it in the UK, not A24. A24 is just a distributor, not a studio. There's the back. And then the disc has the artwork from the traditional Blu-ray case release, this white. I kind of like the red better, especially because that's the movie. And then you might not be able to really see it all that much with the reflecting glare, but the back art is the scene from the trailer where Maud is levitating and, yeah, she's kind of like arched her back and everything. So, because I thought, hey, this is cool, yeah. Just before it ended up finally getting the release in February 1st, A24 finally came up with a release schedule for this movie in the US, where they were giving it a very small token theatrical and drive-in release. I think I read somewhere it was only like 15 or 17 theaters. I don't know if it was actually that small of a release, but a very small token release. And then it was going to go streaming directly to Epix. Like, not PVOD, not sold to one of the major streamers, Epix. And I don't care if it has a free trial, but I was not gonna sign up for Epix. I have no desire to sign up for it. Epix is like a low-rent wannabe HBO, Showtime, Cinemax. I don't know how many premium movie channels there are on cable packages now. I haven't had cable in a very long time. But I was like, Epix? This is weird. Now, I saw a St. Maud trailer in front of, like, every damn movie from, I want to say like November, December 2019 through 2020. Even when the theaters reopened in September and they saw like Tenet and New Mutants and stuff, they still had the old Saint Maud trailer with the April date on it. So I was seeing this trailer all the time, and I don't know why A24 did that. So, and you know, when they said they were going to do this very limited theatrical release, I thought, well, maybe my local Alamo Drafthouse will get it. They usually get stuff like that. No. There was one theater in Raleigh that did get it, but I've never been there, and I don't even know where it is. So it seemed like it's not the easiest movie to go see. Not that, I mean, in some parts of the country, it's not easy to go see a movie anywhere. I think, as of last weekend, I believe 45% of theaters in the U.S. are open. So less than half still. I think it dropped to like a low post-reopening, obviously. Post-reopening with Tenet and stuff, I think it dropped to a low that was in the low 30s, and it's come back up a little bit. I know Chicago and Illinois and a couple other places where they had re-shut down have reopened since, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so Alamo didn't get it, so I was like, yeah, I'll hold on for this. I know some people, especially in this A24 like meme group I'm on Facebook, you know, they resorted to pirating because, you know, once you have a digital copy somewhere, it's going to be on the torrent sites. So I know a lot of people have pirated it, and I think someone uploaded it to YouTube and it wasn't taken down for a while. But I was like, that's, you know, I can't agree with that. And plus, I, you know, wanted a physical copy with extras and everything. So finally came in yesterday, and I watched it finally. So the film. If you've seen the trailer, the film is about a very devout woman named Maud, who is a home health care worker, like a hospice worker, for people with terminal illnesses. And she gets assigned to a woman named Amanda, who has late stage like leukemia or lymphoma or something like that, but like a cancer, or terminal cancer. Doesn't have very long to live. And this woman used to be a dancer, like a professional like ballet dancer or something. And she's a very bohemian type person, I guess would be the phrase. And Maud takes it upon herself to think that she should save this woman's soul, while this woman is at first kind of friendly, but almost in a humoring or mocking way. And yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to get too spoilery as far as plot stuff goes, but that's the basic setup for the movie. And Maud has a thing in her past where she wasn't always this devout, but something tragic happened that the film doesn't explicitly tell us, but we have a basic idea of what it was. And most of the movie is just kind of a character study of Maud. And most of the film is pretty much from her point of view. I think that character is in every scene of the movie. It never really leaves her general point of view. And this has been marketed as a horror movie. It's less of a horror movie than some of the other A24 critic-loved, some people would call them pretentious or artsy horror movies, elevated horror I've heard them called. It's less horror than like Midsommar or Hereditary or The Witch or even The Lighthouse, which is probably the least horror-ish of that group. It's definitely more of a character study with some thriller horror elements to it. As a story, just story-wise, there's nothing terribly original about the film. On the extras, which I'll talk about, they compare it to Taxi Driver. They compare it to early like Polanski horror stuff, like Rosemary's Baby, Repulsion. It's not even as horror as those are. I mean, Taxi Driver's not a horror. But they were clearly going for this character study. And, you know, there's a lot of movies where it's like is there something supernatural happening, or is it just the main character's mental illness type stuff and an unreliable narrator kind of thing? And some of those movies leave it more ambiguous, and some movies sort of tip the scale, or they lean definitively here. I want to say this movie definitely leans heavily in one direction. It's maybe not even quite ambivalent. I want to say it's like 99% one of these options and 1% the other option. It's not really ambiguous at all. There's other movies that are much more ambiguous as far as, are they crazy, or is there something supernatural happening, and that kind of thing. So there's nothing terribly original about this plot as it unfolds. You kind of know where it's going to go once you know the basic setup, because the first act of the movie is pretty much the plot that the trailer tells you it's going to be, and then you get the second act, which is more of Maud's sort of mental descent or deterioration, or the push and pull of who Maud used to be before her devoutness and her coming back to being devout. And then the third act is more Maud has made her decision and she's come hell or high water going to go in this one direction kind of thing. So it's very clearly delineating these three acts. It's also a fairly short movie. Even including credits, it's still under 90 minutes, so it's pretty much you're in, you're out kind of thing. Where this movie excels, though, because I know most of the people who have seen the movie and are a little lukewarm on it are lukewarm on it because the plot is not very different or original or unique. But I think it works because, for a few reasons. Acting-wise, this is a phenomenally acted film. What's the main actress's name? It's Morfydd Clark or something. She has a very odd, like, Welsh first name. She is totally this character. She is. I have no idea what this actress. I've never seen her in anything before. I have no idea what she's like in real life. But she is this character. She is fully committed and fully inhabits this character. This is a fully realized character. It's not just a one-note, Christian fundamentalist or anything. This is a well-rounded, very intense character, and you are in. If this performance didn't work, the movie wouldn't work because this character is in every single scene of the film. And she is very strong in there. And then the other main lead, the woman who plays Amanda, who's an American actress, this is a UK film, by the way. I think it was filmed in London and like a seaside town in England. I don't know if some of it was Scottish as well, but it's a UK film. This American actress, she's very strong in playing this character, where this character could have been... it could have played more shrill or more demeaning, but this character's played realistic for who this is. For someone who is artsy and bohemian and almost like a New York-ish type person, New York City type person, to be struck down with this illness and kind of lonely and hating the world, but still has some people who come around to see her, and this character very much feels like what this person would be, like a real person. The cinematography, the art design, the look of this film is beautiful. Like, this is, like, this movie is baiting to be on that one perfect shot Twitter. Like, there are exterior shots in the seaside town, and it looks the way London or the UK is stereotypified. It's almost looking like the Pacific Northwest, where it's like fog, and looks damp and drizzly, and it looks like it's always going to rain, but not quite raining kind of thing. It just looks miserable. But every interior shot of this movie, and some of the exterior shots kind of at night where it's less rain-like, it is just, if you asked a cinematographer, make this image look warm, that is the color coding of almost every interior shot of this film. Where it's all, I mean, there's a lot of red in this movie. There's a lot of, like, red, burgundy, maroon, mahogany. There's, like, different shades of red bathe this movie. And if it's not red, it's earth tones. There's a lot of browns, a lot of ambers, a lot of, like, burnt oranges. It is just a warm-looking movie, and it's a beautiful palette for what this movie is and what it's trying to do. And it's a good contrast between the exterior shots that are more of a bluish-grayish hue in these interiors and the warm blood-red nature of it. It just helps with the tone and stuff. And the sound design in this movie is really unnerving and helps build tension when not much might be happening plot-wise. There's a lot of, like, annoying repetitive noises. There's, like, flicking of nails. There's clicking of a lighter that won't light up. There's tapping of a pen. There's clicking. There's a lot of, like, repetitive, annoying noises that are just woven into the sound design of the film. They're mostly diegetic, but they're woven into the sound, and it puts you on edge and nerve and really works. And then the score is not instrumental. It's not like an orchestral or even synthesizer like the way. It's just sort of some scary strings, and strings are a hallmark of horror films. I mean, just look at Bernard Herrmann in his Psycho score. Or just ominous tones, almost like they came out of a Christopher Nolan film. Like kind of stuff like you'd see in Tenet or Interstellar or something. And just all of those like unsettling tonal notes and musical notes, or sometimes atonal notes even, with this repetitive like weird sound design. Sometimes like little cracks and scritches and everything. It really helps to envelop. Like, I wish I got to see this movie in a theater with that sound system, because the sound design here just so helps to get you into this character's mental state. There's even little like things like there's a recurring motif of liquid or the clouds in the sky kind of becoming a funnel. It's either God or it's Maud imagining and hallucinating this stuff. And they showed it on one of the extras. There's like a scene where there's a bunch of pint glasses full of beer when she goes out to a bar, and they start to all have vortexes inside them, and they just took like a clear plastic propeller and put it on the bottom of everything to cause it. It's a cool effect. So while the story, the story's good, the story works, but it's not terribly original or unique, which I think is what people are harping on the story part of this, or the plot part of this. But I still like the story, and I especially find the ending of the story very powerful. I mean, without saying what it is, the final shot of this movie is horrifying. And in fact, a lot of what happens in the third act is quite horrifying. And that's the most horror-esque of the genre of horror that the film ever becomes. But when you take just how much the craftsmanship of this movie is with the sound design and that visual look, and then the acting totally committing to these characters, what you end up with is a very watchable, very investing filmic experience. So while the not so unique parts of the plot sort of keep the film from greatness, it still achieves very goodness, for lack of a better term. From a film studies analytical standpoint, a lot of the extras on the disc seem to argue that the main theme of the film is loneliness, and this is even sort of called out in the film, where there's one part where Amanda says to Maud something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the line exactly, but you must be the loneliest girl in the world or something. And, it harkens back. I mean, if Taxi Driver is an influence for this film, there's the famous line in that movie when Bickle is narrating where he says, "I am God's lonely man." And certainly both the characters of Maud and Amanda are feeling loneliness in their own way. The character of Amanda, she pays a woman for companionship, and the film argues probably sexual gratification as well. And Maud is left without, she seems to have no family to speak of. She has one acquaintance who I guess used to be a friend before her tragedy, who does come up for a couple scenes, but otherwise in this one scene where after things seem to have fallen apart for her in the second act, where she goes out to a bar and seems to be resorting or falling back into what her personality was before she became devout and trying to get something out of that, and it doesn't quite work. But I think a better concept for what this movie is about is less about loneliness as a concept, because it's not really harping on loneliness as causing this or isolation as causing this, especially when the character of Amanda is not completely alone, even if she kind of feels it, and she doesn't have a solid network. But I mean, a lot of people do show up to her birthday party in the movie. And Maud even has people, she reaches out to somebody and that doesn't work out, but then that person still tries to check on her later. So I don't think loneliness is the main conceit of what's going on here. I think it's more about the inability to cope. Because obviously the character of Maud has become devout because of some tragedy that's happened or some bad event in her life. And it seems like this devout, pseudo-Catholic fervor that she's gotten into is how she has responded to this trauma and the person that she was. Again, the film basically gives you an idea of what her personality was like before she had this tragedy, and then flipped almost 180 degrees away from that. And so the fact that this fervent religion has given her purpose, or given her something to focus on, or ameliorate whatever pain she had from this tragic event, I think that's more of what the film's going for. The character of Amanda, she's mostly just trying to cope with the fact that she's gone from being this graceful dancer to someone who's slowly becoming an invalid and is tragically dying, and someone who was the toast of the town and was in all these books and performances and everything. So it's more about the different ways that they cope, because the character of Amanda is coping by kind of becoming more hard-edged and more sarcastic, and the way people use humor, sometimes even mean-spirited humor, as a defense mechanism. But she also does do a few things. She gives Maud this nice coffee table book of William Blake artwork, which is obviously has religious stuff. There's the famous red dragon painting in that book as well. So I think if there's a more precise theme of the film, rather than loneliness, which is still a present theme in it, it's more about how these characters can't cope, and they're coming up with not the healthiest ways to cope with these things. Certainly Maud's is more unhealthy, and sort of the full descent into a bad coping mechanism. In that way, it's very similar to one of the omnipresent themes of one of my favorite directors, Adam Magoyan. The inability to cope with trauma or cope with loss is a big theme in some of his best films. Exotica, which is one of my top 5 favorite films, The Sweet Hereafter, Adoration, Speaking Parts, it's very Adam Magoyan that way. Though Adam Magoyan has never quite made a full-on horror film. I guess Devil's Knot, then that's not one of his better ones. He's made some of the stuff that borders on thriller, but I don't think Adam Magoyan's ever made a horror film, or a straight-on horror film. So that's my interpretation of that. So anyway, as far as is the film worth seeing? Yes, it's definitely a very, very good movie. It's probably like a B+, soft A- maybe, somewhere in there. So as far as the disc. There's one extra I did not watch, or listen to, I guess, which is basically the audio commentary. It's an audio commentary with the writer-director, Rose Glass, and the film's editor, whose name escapes me at the moment. This is Rose Glass's first feature film. Apparently she's done some short films before, and, great first feature, though. Kuda, I hope to see more stuff from her. I'm not sure if she'd stay within the horror-adjacent genre. She doesn't seem like too much of a horror fan from some of the extras. But I look forward to what she'll be doing going forward. So I haven't listened to the audio commentary, so disclosure there. I can't review that part of it. But the rest of the extras. So stupid one. There's a trailer. The UK trailer is fairly different from the US trailer. There's no Billie Eilish song in it, for instance. But some of the same trailer beats do carry over. The longest featurette is a Q&A that was done over Zoom when the film premiered in UK theaters. There's a film critic who interviews her, and then they do question and answer from people who are apparently in the audience and were able to send questions through email or WhatsApp and submit them. And you find out some interesting factoids about how the project started, and about some people ask about the sound design, the production design, the stuff I've kind of pointed out here, and you get some decent answers of it. It's not terribly illuminating or introspective as far as what the film means or anything. A lot of the questions are more about the trappings of the aesthetics, and of course the release getting pushed back and some of that stuff, and the general production stuff. Low budget first film and some of the effects work and things like that. So it's not too introspective from a deep dive into the story and what it means and all that stuff, but it's a decent little interview. The other featurettes, for the most part, are sort of an EPK variety. Very short, hey, these are our 2 characters and stuff, and hey, here's a couple behind the scenes how we did this effect and whatever, and here's what here's what we did digitally and stuff like that, because they do some like digital like face manipulations during a couple parts. It's very good. And there's one extra that is sort of not behind the scenes, but it's kind of outtakes or longer takes of different effect shots, and then Rose Glass does a little audio commentary about like, oh, here's what we're seeing, and here's what we're doing, or we didn't use this take, or this is how we did this effect, and stuff like that. And some of that's interesting. They show how they did the levitating in the air sequence, and how they did some of the facial manipulation stuff, dots on the face and things, and different stuff like that. And frame some shots and everything. So it was, there's nothing terribly great about the extras. They don't go into as much detail as I'd like about how the story was constructed and how they went in this direction and what they were trying to say with the movie and that kind of thing. It's quite possible the audio commentary does that. So I'll reserve until I have a chance to watch and listen to that. But otherwise, they're typical featurettes you'd see on a new film's mainstream release that's not done from like a boutique label or anything. So they're perfectly fine. Most of the extras are under 10 minutes. A couple of them seem like they're under 5. Nothing super great about the extras, but not bad either. I did want to say, so when I was watching this film on my television, I have motion smoothing turned off, obviously, because I'm not a monster. But when I was watching the film, it did appear like there was almost a motion smoothing aspect to it, as far as what the image looked like. It's kind of like the same time where, like if you watch a British television show on PBS, sometimes it kind of looks like that, like they're shooting with soap opera cameras. I don't know if that's the type of camera they used for this film, because when I watched the trailer in theaters, that wasn't what the visuals looked like. But also, because this is a Region B disc, I don't know if that's a byproduct of converting PAL to NTSC, or I don't even know if that's something that happens with this Blu-ray. I'm not as technical-minded as I like. Anyway, this supposedly short review is closing in on half an hour, so let me just say, Saint Maud, very, very good film. I would recommend, if you want to pick it up as a blind buy, go ahead. You'll probably watch it more than once. It's certainly a short watch. Extras leave something to be desired, but not terrible. It's certainly not bare bones or anything. And I mean, it costs like 3 times as much extra, and even more if you're converting from pounds to dollars. But this slipcover is pretty sharp. Or the steelbook rather is pretty sharp. So I was happy to have this. But you can buy the regular version as well for far cheaper if you'd like. Yeah. So that's all I have to say about to this one then. Yeah, I'll try to come back like maybe later this weekend with more of a longer, like, hey, is there a state of the movie industry type thing, but just wanted to put out a review of this. So, thanks. See you, everybody.